News 15 Investigates is looking into the surge of deadly fentanyl coming into the hub city.
Lafayette Parish on pace to set a record for fentanyl overdose deaths this year. News 15's Jeff Horchak joining us live in studio with part one of a three-part series, Poison, Lafayette's Fentanyl Crisis. Jeff, you learned of this crisis firsthand after speaking with a father who lost his daughter to an overdose.
That's right, Marcel. Losing his daughter to this deadly drug has been one of the hardest things that he and his family has had to go through. Tonight, he's warning parents to talk with their children about the dangers of recreational drug use.
Don't mess around with recreational drugs because those days are over.
Bob Broussard knows all too well the dangers of fentanyl. His daughter, John Therese, was a 20-year-old student at UL when she died in October 2021 from fentanyl poisoning. She was in downtown Lafayette with friends and purchased what she thought was cocaine, but ended up being heroin mixed with a deadly dose of fentanyl.
It's actually been put in these not to give people, but to kill them. It's an absolute 100% intention to kill people in this country by lacing the fentanyl into this.
Assistant District Attorney Lance Beal was the lead prosecutor in the murder trial of John Therese Broussard. Damien Bernard was found guilty in October 2023 of the second-degree murder of Broussard. And the jury found that Bernard sold the fentanyl to Broussard, which caused her death, and was given a life sentence in prison.
News 15 Investigates is taking an in-depth look into the surge of deadly fentanyl coming into the hub city.
We've learned Lafayette Parish is on pace to set a record for fentanyl overdose deaths this year. News 15's Jeff Horchak joining us live with part two of his three-part investigation, Poison, Lafayette's Fentanyl Crisis. Jeff, the Lafayette coroner gave you some surprising new information.
That's right, Jim Marcel. The coroner tells me that 2024 could be a record year for fentanyl deaths, related deaths right here in Lafayette Parish. Plus, News 15's medical editor, Dr. John Lepre, he breaks down exactly what makes street fentanyl so deadly.
In all your years in medicine, being a doctor, dealing with in the coroner, have you ever seen a drug as lethal as this?
No.
Hands down.
Hands down. This is it.
As fentanyl continues to be trafficked into Louisiana, the number of fentanyl-related deaths are rising. The Lafayette coroner, Dr. Kenneth Odenay, says 2024 could be a record year for fentanyl deaths in the parish.
We're on schedule for 2024 at the rate we're going to have 134 deaths with fentanyl.
News 15's medical editor, Dr. John Lepre, breaks down what street fentanyl does to the body to make it so deadly.
So fentanyl triggers opioid receptors in the body. You trigger a few and it's a euphoria. You trigger them all and you're going to get an overdose. Symptoms of overdose include kind of a comatose. You're going out. It also stops the breathing centers within the brain. You will quit breathing.
News 15 Investigates is taking an in-depth look into the surge of deadly fentanyl coming into the hub city.
We've learned Lafayette Parish is on pace to set a record for fentanyl overdose deaths this year. News 15's Jeff Horchak joins us live in studio with the final part of his three-part investigation, Poisoned, Lafayette's Fentanyl Crisis. Jeff, you sat down with the head of the narcotics division at Lafayette Police as well as the state attorney general. What did they tell you?
Oh, Jim Marcel, the Lafayette Police Department's narcotics division tells me that it's concerning because they've confiscated more and more fentanyl every day off the streets of Lafayette. For years, Lafayette has been a hotspot for drug trafficking, with two major interstates and I-10 and I-49 meeting up here in the hub city. And LPD is constantly seizing drugs. A good majority of it contains deadly street fentanyl. Now, Lieutenant Will White, who heads up the narcotics department with Lafayette Police Department, says every single day they seize fentanyl on the streets. And in April, LPD seized their largest fentanyl bust in the city's history, confiscating 5 pounds.
Whenever the K2 spikes start hitting the market in these local smoke shops and whatnot. And at that point, I think we saw a trend of your more traditional drugs are now going to be converted to more synthetic in the future. And I think that's where we're at right now.
Lieutenant White says that drug dealers and pushers use fentanyl to help increase their profits.
Because fentanyl is so cheap, if I buy, let's say, a kilogram of heroin, I can stretch my profits by cutting it with fentanyl.
Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill is working with sheriff's departments, state police, and even city police departments in hopes of curbing the influx of fentanyl being pushed statewide. But it's not an easy task.
We are right on I-10, come straight in from the border. So our fentanyl problem is a fentanyl problem that started in Mexico and started with cartels trafficking drugs across our border.
Live in studio for News 15 Investigates, I'm Jeff Horchak.